So Andrew,
terrible.
you're a 71-year-old handsome man. I'm curious.
Yes.
What is your belief with regards to the supernatural?
The supernatural.
Yeah. Or the metaphysical?
No.
You don't believe in a god?
No. Well, I'm agnostic.
Okay. So
There might be one, but I'm not focused on it. It's not a big issue.
So out of interest, because obviously when we come to Speaker's Corner, it's always interesting to hear the beliefs of people and see the morality that they follow and what drives them in life. So out of interest, when you see all the complexity and the design, what do you conclude? Where did all of this design and complexity emerge from?
I think it was random. I'm very much of the view, Darwin. The Darwin. I mean, I'm a product of the society and the country in which I grew up.
Andrew, did you know that Charles Darwin, when he came up with the theory of evolution, he didn't denounce God?
No.
So,
I'm not. That's why I'm agnostic. My father was an atheist. I'm agnostic. He was certain in his belief there was no God. I'm not certain about
your
anything.
view is more nuanced, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not certain about anything. There might be a God. How can I know? I go around here. I only come to London occasionally. I'm from Leeds.
Yeah.
And I've come to see my daughter because she's pregnant. And she's lovely as my daughter.
I hope the pregnancy and the delivery goes well.
3 weeks to go, so I'll have a little baby.
Yeah.
Another grandson. And what I'm saying is, my father's now. I'm agnostic. I actually don't know. If I walk around here, what frightens me is a Christian who knows every word of the Bible. But is the Bible true? Did Jesus write it, or whoever was spared the four Gospels? Or you'll see a Jew who said this is the word of God, or Moses, or he got this, and you see somebody who is Muslim who got the Quran. How do we know? 1400 years ago, is it true? They spout it word for word as if it is God's word.
Yeah.
But the things I would take issue is how true is it? I personally get my morality perhaps from society, perhaps from Greek philosophers, perhaps from
Who
an
in particular?
Nobody in particular, but just a sense of what is right and what is wrong.
Right.
Things are right, things are wrong.
Okay.
Help the weak, help the poor.
Yeah, very good principles.
Don't do violence, don't do murder.
So let's go back to your initial point, which was you believe all of this design, some that we can measure objectively, like the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, the golden spiral, etc., symmetry that we see.
You're a very erudite man. Have you got a degree in maths?
No, I don't, but
You are well educated.
Thank you. It's the points that you're mentioning. I think you're making good points, and I feel that if I'm coming to Speaker's Corner, I should, if I'm preaching a certain philosophy or certain religion, then I need to have the backing to justify it. So that's why the questions that you've made,
yes,
I believe I can present to you a coherent, cogent, logical view that when you speak to, say, people of other faiths, I think you will more incline towards the view that we present, because I think it will satisfy, hopefully, your logical and deductive capability and inquiry.
I've inquired widely over the years. I have taken a view to be accepting of all peoples.
As we all should be.
Yes, and not to particularly identify with any particular sect. I suppose in this country everybody nominally is Christian, if they're nothing else, because Christianity is established.
Yes.
With the Archbishop and the monarchy and all the rest. It's the established religion, but it's a very tolerant religion. If you compare it to, say, Iran, which is a bit extremist, I accept, but they have a theocracy, and it's not very tolerant of other people, whereas English Christianity is very tolerant of most people. From the theocratic point of view, the governments of the people might not be, but
Andrew, I mean, I would also pass the buck on to you in terms of, I think you're intelligent as well. And
I used to be.
I would say so, and I'm sure you also understand not to conflate the adherence of a faith to the doctrine and to the theology itself. You can have a theology, but it doesn't guarantee that the adherence will be an accurate representation of that.
I'd go with you there. I would absolutely go with you. And my personal dislikes are anybody who's extremist, what I call extremist enough to say, I am a Muslim, therefore everybody else is wrong. I am a Christian, therefore anybody who is a Christian is wrong. to not accept a lot of these people genuinely believe in God, and God might be, if there is a God, he might be up, or she might be up at the top of a mountain. There's a lot of different paths up that mountain. Whether you take the Muslim, the Islam view, the Christian view.
Do you believe in absolute truth?
I'm not absolutely certain what you absolutely mean by an absolute truth. This is a very philosophical concept.
So I think absolute truth is more like an axiom in the sense that
yeah.
either you're here or you're not here. You can't be here and not here at the same time, right?
Are you getting Cartesian here?
No,
I don't think, therefore I'm not.
I think Descartes was refuted by, Leibniz and those guys.
Yes.
Better than myself.
And I don't understand most of it, although I like Schumpeter, but that's more at an economic level than, and I prefer him to Keynes. But we're talking.
But you do believe that, if somebody's been run over and you see their body, you believe that they exist, that they're there, as opposed to not being there. So there is truth.
Okay, there's this sort of what do they call it? This myth. I've forgotten the correct word. Do we exist? This existence thing. Are we actors on the stage? Are we the audience there? This concept of existence, it's all relative to how do you know. So I'm not sure.
But that's good for philosophers sitting on their chairs,
yes.
smoking weed.
Yeah.
and that's fine. They're welcome to that.
You'll float off your chair if you smoke too much weed.
But I mean, when we're going home, if you're going by car, you believe that you exist, your car exists, you believe your road tax exists, you believe the red light exists. We don't question that when we're on the way home.
It's my reality.
There you go.
And whether anybody else, whether I'm having this dream, this could all be a dream that I exist. That is a bit esoteric. And this conflation idea, I don't know.
But Andrew, here's what's interesting. When it comes to making money, when it comes to, say, our daughters, the kids, you would never go to your daughter and say, you know what? What's the point? What's the point of the kid? Maybe it's a dream. Why go to the hospital? Maybe you don't exist. Do you see? There, you definitely exist. She exists, and that child exists.
She could exist in my dream.
But would you ever tell her that when she's going through labour pain? Dad, help me! And you're like, I may or may not exist. Maybe.
That would not be the right time to have a philosophical discussion.
Yeah. But you don't believe that, Andrew. It's nice as a sitting around the campfire talk, but practical. Let's be honest.
Well, the practical. I am an agnostic. I am very uncertain about most things, and I am not fearful is the wrong word, but a tad apprehensive about people who are certain about things. I'm thinking, where do they get their certainty?
And that's good. Questioning is good.
That certainty can move out to extremism, and once you're an extremist, you actually feel justified in killing other people because you're right, therefore they're wrong.
There's extremism everywhere, unfortunately.
Yes, I don't disagree
in business.
Yes.
In police, in every aspect of society, and that's why.
But I think
it's very important to stay in the middle part. This is what the Quran says.
But religious extremism has driven a lot of violence over the centuries. Even now, that's my belief. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Karen,
that's a perception.
There's a scholar called Karen Armstrong. She used to be a nun. She's written a book called Fields of Blood, and she looks into all of these quote-unquote religions that have committed violence. So she's concluded that a lot of this violence, if not all, has been due to geopolitics.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's tribal.
Yeah.
If that's an appropriate word.
So
the Gazans hate Israelis, or the Muslims hate Jews. And you talk about the conflation earlier. Yeah. That is that they don't necessarily conflate. There's a lot of people. Yeah. There's a lot of places geographically where Christians. I mean, once upon a time,
the Prophet Muhammad, one of his wives, peace be upon him, was ethnically a Jew. A lot of people don't know this. So they may and lay all sorts of accusations, and Karen Armstrong further elaborates on this, and she says it's only after land came into issue that's when people started weaponizing religion.
Tribal and geopolitics.
Yes.
I mean, if you go back a further 600 years back from the Prophet, if I'm not mistaken, Hagar gave birth on the knees of Sarah to Abraham. Was it Ishmael?
I mean, you don't believe in religion, so that's mythological to you, isn't it?
No, I'm familiar with it, but that's the history.
There's
You can
we
know
don't-
about
yeah.
the history of theology, and it's interesting, like history generally.
But let me tell you something, Andrew. The Quran is the only book that of the ancient religions that claims to have manuscripts dating to the time of preservation. The Jewish
times of preservation. did you
Oh
say?
yes, the time of the Prophet.
Oh, well, is that preservation? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the preservation.
I think preserving something.
Yeah, because it was revealed to the Prophet, it was revealed to his heart,
So
it
it
was
wasn't a
revealed verbally.
revelation.
Here's the distinction: it was revealed to the Prophet
Yeah.
verbally, then the Prophet narrated it, and it was written down.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Maybe the correct word I should have used was compilation.
A compilation.
Yeah,
A,
maybe
a
that's
sort
more
of
accurate.
revelation compilation. Sorry, when you said preservation, I'm thinking of preserving.
Yeah, my
but I
mistake.
said, sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
my misunderstanding.
No problem. No, my mistake. So over here we have manuscripts dating to the time of compilation.
Yeah.
The New Testament, the closest complete manuscript that they have is 300 years after Jesus.
Oh, yes.
If they
yes.
argue,
the
okay,
disciples had very different stories to tell.
and
There's
if,
a lot of
and
inconsistency.
if they argue, like, look, you're misrepresenting us, well, we got short. Okay, no problem, 100 years after Jesus, but not from the time of Jesus. The Old Testament, they definitely don't have anything dating to the time of
No.
Moses. So it's all well and good making these claims, but I would argue that in terms of the veracity of scripture, I would say the Quran's case is more stronger than the others. Number one, in terms of manuscript that I mentioned. Number
Yes.
two, in terms of stomatics.
And provenance. I mean, if you have original, but
Yeah.
my discussion, I'm not. It's not a pushback.
You
but
can,
what
of
I-
course.
What, what
That's
I
what
would
I'm here.
query,
I should be able to take a pushback from you.
what I would query
Yeah.
is. 1400 years ago,
Yeah.
the people writing it down,
Yes.
if they were all Nigel Farage's or all Donald Trump's,
Yes.
they would be writing down their truth,
Yes.
not the prophet's truth.
Yes.
So, and we can't go back to find out.
Well, technically we can. That's why I gave you the term stomatics.
You could do time travel.
Well, through literature we can. Through literature we can. Just like you were time traveling when it came to Hagar and
Well,
Ishmael.
yes, we discussed in the
Yeah,
past.
you were. So there is a degree, especially when you look into history and you look at Princeton's Guide to History. There's ways that we can discover that decipher, and especially using the fields of stomatics, we look and we analyze the Hijazi script. We look at the shapes. We look at the use of dots and markings. We can go back and we can say who it's coming from. We can say who the scribes are, because it's in Islam we have the names of the scribes, we have their biographies. Like, you can go home and you can check their biographies, and through Andrew.
But we've got Piers Morgan, we've got Donald Trump.
No, but if you
just because they say it doesn't make it true.
But here's the thing. What the key and the smoking gun that I'm going to say is the argument of testimony. That we have chains of narration that have been preserved and that can be critiqued by anybody. You can go home. Various testimonies whose chains we can ascertain and check, and the probability of it being fabricated becomes negligible.
I've got sad news for you. This is all very compelling, and I actually don't agree with any of that. Sadly, I'm 71, and my short-term memory is going just a little bit, and I'm not going to change. I'm not taking on board your. I won't change to Islam.
No problem.
I just won't, because I don't come from Islam. It's not my family structure. I don't live in an area where I'd be able to practice
If it was shown to be true to you, would you accept it?
As I said earlier, I am very, very dubious, cynical, questioning about everything I hear.
But that's not why I asked.
I'm hearing one person's truth. If somebody comes up to me in the world, in the street, said, this person has just said this to me, and it's robbed me of this, it's taken me that, I'm only hearing one person's truth.
And that's fine,
I
Andrew.
want to hear the other.
That's why I said that if it was presented to be true to you, whether it's through one person, two people, 3, 5, 10, if you were convinced that, you know what, it's true, would you accept it?
I haven't got enough years left in my life to read the Quran, to read all the hadiths, to read everything that went into it, and my time for studying is long over and long past.
That's not why I asked though, Andrew.
It isn't, But I don't have the intellectual depth, gravity. I'm not intellectual enough now.
Let's just say, God forbid, something happened in your life that, because I know many people that they assume that where they are in that moment in time, that's where they're going to remain forever. However, life has a wonderful way of, sometimes edging us towards a certain trajectory or a path that, let's just say, hypothetically, you start to look into the religions. Maybe we cross paths again, or maybe somebody more knowledgeable than me. Thank you. But let's just say you were convinced. Would you then take the step to accept it?
I think it's a hypothetical question because
yes, it is.
I'm not going to become convinced. I've been an agnostic all my life.
And Andrew, that's why I would argue you're not sincere. Because my thing was presupposing that all of your boxes were ticked about argumentation and time of reading and all that. And I'm saying that if a person is interested in truth, if it's presented to them and they accept it, would they then adopt it and believe it? You're still adamant in saying...
So we're conflating these words, presenting and accepting.
Yes.
You can present this.
Yes.
I can think, it's feasible, but I don't accept it.
But if you believe it to be true...
No, I can believe that it might be true.
No, if you believe it to be true, would you...
I don't believe you.
How do you know?
I don't know.
You're telling me about the past. Do you know the future?
No, I'm telling you about how the past has been reported. I don't know the past history. I only know what I'm telling you. I mean, I've had a truly, truly surreal conversation with... I opened my door one day to a knock. There were Jehovah's Witnesses. So I invited them in. I don't know if you ever chatted with them. And it was bizarre. I don't know quite how to put it into words. They're sort of on transmit and not receive. And they quote the Bible. I said, but how do you know about the veracity? It says it in the Bible. I said, but that's the St. John's. That's the St. John's Bible, and that's not a good translation. And they said, oh yes, it's a perfect translation. But I know that not St. John's, King John's, whatever, the 400-year-old.
Gospel of John,
no, the Bible. The
King James version.
The King James, sorry, the King James. That was a translation at a time for a people, but what was the source material? And if you retranslated it, it would probably say something quite different. I don't know what the source material is relative to that. The Gospels were Greek, weren't they? I don't know if the...
And Jesus spoke Aramaic.
Yes. Well, Judea and Bethlehem and
what we believe is the Prophet Muhammad.
Well, he was a Jew, wasn't
Arabic.
he?
The Quran is in Arabic. Arabic is the fourth most spoken language on the planet. It's accessible. We have manuscripts. We learn and memorize the Quran from page to page. Therefore, if all the holy scriptures are burnt,
it should be right.
Quran is the one that can be written word for word. So something that clearly comes from God has to obviously be, in a way, uncorruptible.
But don't the Jews do that in Hebrew? I mean, that's a very old language.
They don't have chains of narrations going all the way to Moses.
No, I don't know. No, I suppose. Yeah, exactly. But I don't think I'll move away from being an agnostic because that takes away to what, to me, is fundamental, and that is to question other people's beliefs.
But isn't that the definition of agnostic? When a person
I'm
says,
not sure.
I'm not sure. So if you're not sure, how can you be certain to stay on that point of I'm not sure? Surely you should move on to I'm slightly more convinced. If I get an answer, I'm open to it. I think that would be a more healthier stance for you to take.
So if I move towards the slightly further east from the Arabian countries, and we go to Hindu or Buddhism or Shinto, I mean, these are other possibilities, and I haven't studied them enough, nor am I licensed enough, and I don't think I could accept your truth till I've seen all the truths.
But that's what I'm saying. There are certain things that, let's just say, even in a simple conversation, we can get our brain juices flowing. For example, logically, rationally, if I was to argue to somebody, if there was, like you're a philosopher, you understand that...
I'm not a philosopher, I'm a retired shopkeeper. I'm not a philosopher.
So you're into philosophy.
I take an interest.
Yes. So when a person looks into philosophy, there's certain terminologies that tend to creep up again and again, which is contingent beings, or contingent existence, or a necessary existence.
You are brighter. You are more erudite than me. I'm not familiar with
No
all
problem.
the philosophers.
I will elaborate on anything you don't understand, just so you gain some sort of insight before you leave today.
Do you know what? An opinion is you should be preaching to younger people.